Hi everyone, I'm Fiona Edgar. Welcome to a brand new episode of the No BS Pagan Podcast. I am an astrologer, a podcaster, and a writer from Northern Ireland. This is my lovely co-host, Tina Kay. She is a rune reader, a mystic, a chef, and many other things. How are you doing, Tina?
Very, very tired, but also very happy, I have to say. My life has taken a turn in a direction that I could never have prepared for, and I have absolutely zero regrets about it.
Oh, great. Well, I forgot to add your most important title now, which is mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Indeed.
congratulations on that. It's
Thank you.
definitely the most worthwhile role that any woman could ever take, I believe.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like oh, I often felt in the past that it's like there's just something missing in my life, and yeah, it was motherhood because I grew up with a mother that was not worthy of the name at all, and she said it a lot, like, "Oh, are you sure? Are you sure you'd be a good mother? Because I don't think so." But screw
Oh,
all of them; they were all wrong,
yeah,
all of
I
them.
bet they were. Yeah, completely. Oh dear. Well, you know how people like to tear us down. So good for you.
Thank you.
So we have a few topics that we're going to discuss today. Then I'm going to talk about the astrology for July, and Tina is going to pull some runes for all of us. And this is going to be a monthly thing. And yeah, our lives kind of got in the way, which is why we stopped doing them. Tina, of course, had other things that she needed to focus on. I was quite sick for about a year, but we're both back in full fighting form again, and we're really glad to be back. So we do tend to talk about the themes of paganism, spirituality, the occult, the more darker themes, because no one else wants to talk about them. Well, not many people, anyway.
I find that in a lot of YouTube channels, these subjects are shied away from because, well, you have to get into the darkness and the nitty-gritty. And I understand, and I do really understand that it is not a very pleasant subject to talk about all the time, but you have to talk about it, or at least you have to acknowledge that it exists. Otherwise, you end up in one of those new age groups posting about empaths and whatnot all the
Yeah.
time. You won't get far with that.
That's very true. And that's why the new age is so dangerous, because they refuse to acknowledge anything dark. And they think that just sending love and light is enough to protect themselves, which I don't really agree with at all.
I don't agree with that either. And I don't believe in the concept of empaths. I believe in empathy. I believe that is a real thing, but I don't believe in empaths. I think empathy is something that we all have. We have names for people that don't have them, and they're not nice names: narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths. They're those are the people that don't have empathy. So if somebody comes up with with patting themselves on the shoulder saying like, I'm an empath, I automatically think like, no human in the world needs ass pats because they can do something that everybody else can do.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And also they come from a place of, well, of narcissism, because it's like they're making everyone else responsible for their feelings. And, sometimes they just need to mind their own business and learn the art of detachment instead of getting their own energy involved in everyone else's.
A lot of self-professed empaths are meddlers. They love to meddle in other people's business, and I don't understand where that comes from.
Yeah.
It's I think that is a coping mechanism to avoid the void inside. That's why you get so involved with other people's business, because if you have a full life and you have things to do and you're content with your life, or you're working towards contentness, you don't really care what other people are doing. Okay, somebody comes to you with a problem and you like them, you may do your best to help them, but you're not going to actively involve yourself in somebody else's life. I find it very invasive.
Yes, I agree. It is invasive, and really, it's kind of a product of Abrahamism and the New Age, because both of those systems, which come from the same place, they actively encourage people to interfere with other people's lives, decisions, and it is ultimately very harmful both for the meddler and for the other person involved.
Sooner or later, you're going to step over the line of where the boundary is. You're going to step on somebody's boundary, and then of course then the other person is automatically the narcissist that attacking the empath because they're evil.
Yes.
That other person's evil.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me.
Oh, okay. Do you want to share your experience, or is that kind of private?
Yes, because it is actually a very good segue into our first topic.
Yeah.
I had one of those self-proclaimed empaths involve herself in my life in a way that, really backfired mostly on her. Initially, it backfired on myself because I thought I actually had a friend, because I was rather naive about it all. And I allowed this person to know certain things about me, things that I kept private otherwise. And whenever she asked about them, I would just tell, like, this is what's up and that is what's up. And then she, in a moment of, she probably thought she was doing something, how do you call that, something to help me, or maybe not. I cannot read her mind like that. But she started posting about it on her social media, about my private business. So I contacted her saying, like, look, I'm not angry or anything, but can you please take that down? Because I don't really appreciate that. I don't want that out in the world. Like, that's things I told you about in private. And this person not only got extremely angry with me, but she also then went on to spew everything I ever told her out in public. And then went on a 3-year-long smear campaign against me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is it the person that I know about?
I think you do know about her.
Yeah, very dangerous individual and quite mentally unwell and spiritually unwell also. She kind of involved me in the smear campaign because I blocked her. She goes around telling everyone I blocked her because Egypt is in Africa, but I blocked her because of the way that she treated you.
Oh, that is somebody else even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh God, that person.
Yes.
I cannot get into these conversations with her, and I never try to, because I mean, she just attacks. I mean, if somebody just starts to attack you for no reason at all, there is always an entity attachment involved. There is no way around it. I can understand that if you come at me or you attack me because I was a real bitch to you. I understand that. And I will even acknowledge that I can be really bitchy and cunty sometimes. I just am.
Everyone can.
Yeah.
We're human.
But when it is for a stupid reason, as if to say that no, I don't work for the CIA, and I don't work for the US Navy, and I don't work for the Vatican.
Oh, well, you know, some of that is funny, but to be the subject of that is really distressing. But you're right in that there are entities involved, and that problem is rife, because what has happened is that people have turned away from their ancestors, their ancestral gods. They have no protection against these many different entities, and they, you know, take drugs, or even some that is an alcoholic, or all of these are gateways to possession. And possession, at least the ones that I have seen, it's not like The Exorcist where their heads are spinning and, you know, they're vomiting and things like that. But what I have seen is that it is very subtle. It latches on to personality traits that were already there before, and then it starts to exploit them.
And it exploits explodes. That personality trait that it latches onto, everything else falls to the background. Only that specific personality trait comes to the fore, pushes everything else back. And it's like nothing else exists in that person for that moment. I've seen this happen to, well, both these women. And what is very strange is that when one is piping up, the other one is quiet. And when the other one starts to pipe up, that one is quiet. It's like it's the same entity, although it manifests itself in different personality traits in both. But in both cases, substance abuse is involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because they're both not shy about it. So
yeah.
But what I have noticed that alcohol is worse than cannabis when it comes to that kind of entity, specific entity that latches itself to anger. With alcohol, that will just, that whole person, the face of the person just warps into something else. They're no longer recognizable. It's a completely different person you're looking at. They're the same on the surface level, but it's like you can see something behind those eyes trying to come to the foreground. It's almost like there's a battle going on between those eyes.
Yes.
It's quite scary.
It is
well, scary.
Yeah.
It's scary for that person, because I remember when I used to work in culinary, and yes, I was a problem drinker at the time, and that was my coping mechanism. And I remember that happening to me as well, that just sometimes you drink, and I had the same thing with anger, and that's why I recognize it in other people, that when that happens and you feel something latching onto the anger, you don't remember it the next day. I have had evenings where I was so shit-faced, but I could remember everything that happened. And then there were evenings I had 2 beers and I was in a really bad state of mind. And I got into that anger moment and I remember nothing up to a certain point. Absolutely nothing. It's because something took over.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to say that I don't drink like that anymore. And I never want to, especially now.
Yes. Yeah. I don't drink at all, really. I mean, maybe once in a blue moon. Recently I had, some issue to deal with, and I had a swig of rum to steady my nerves before the event. But that's what I learned, is that when you drink, you become you become too volatile, and you never know which side of you is going to come out. And I don't enjoy being around people that drink alcohol. If you're sober and they're drunk, of course it's annoying, but there's like an energy that feels upsetting. But definitely all of these issues, and of course if you combine alcohol with someone that is doing new age practices or quite dark practices, that can just be a ticking time bomb.
Yes, because I mean, especially New Agers seem to think that they are immune to this entity attachment, and you're not. Nobody is. They're all around us all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody has these things swarming around us, and they're just looking for an opening. And a New Ager with their love and light bullshit, you have to be open. Yeah, I mean, your door is already a bit more open.
Yes.
Than somebody who does not follow that train of thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I went through a new age period, because quite often, you don't believe in Christianity, you're not involved with anything like that, but yet you feel this something is missing, and it is spiritual. And back when I was growing up, I never heard about any pagans or polytheism or ancestral practices or even the runes. And you get involved with these new age systems and people, and it is dangerous. I would say that new age period, I was attacked more than I ever have been in my life. I have marks on my neck. I don't know if you can see them there, but they appear.
Really.
Those marks appeared one night, and it was about, I don't know, the year 2000, maybe shortly after that. And there was no reason for them. I didn't hurt myself. No one hurt me, and they have actually stayed there ever since. And around that time, my life was chaos. And I used to hear, well, this happened once or twice, other people, we heard footsteps going up and down the side of the house, and there was no one there. And that's a sign of like a kind of psychic or spiritual attack. But yeah, it can be complete madness getting initiated into all of these kind of new age systems. There's no protection, and they start to have nightmares and a bad luck. We can call it bad luck, things going wrong. And really, it is just a full on attack.
I think it's what you say about being attacked the most amongst these people. I think that most of them aren't even aware that they're doing it. Some of them probably are, but they're more of the black magician type than the typical new ager, because these people repress their own negative feelings so much that it has to come out in some way, and it does come out in some way, and it comes out in a way that they're not even aware of, that they're just projecting things onto somebody, like that one woman did with me, that everything that she accuses me of are things that she's actually doing herself. And she's trying to put these things on me, and it's eating her alive. And you can see that happening in real time, how this woman has degraded over just 3 years' time. It is remarkable. Truly remarkable. And I would feel sorry for this woman if she had been such a god-awful bitch to me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, the thing is that if you decide to start a hate campaign, smear campaign, or even using magic yourself against someone who is knowledgeable within the occult, who uses the runes, who works with their gods, they have a lot of protection around them. You're not going to win. It's going to eat you up inside. And quite often these people get really sick and then they die suddenly. And it's because of their own toxicity and these entities that use them.
I have never, ever had to invoke an entity for my self-protection. That never had to happen. Now I have my own magical practices, or my psychic self-defense practices, and that is usually more than enough, because I find it very grounding. It's always a little reminder of just strengthen the border a little bit, polish up the psychic firewall. I never had to resort to active magic against somebody, except one time, but that was a long time ago, and that was very scary because it worked so well and it worked so fast. And I didn't do it again after that. But yeah, I did actually curse somebody once for reasons that were very, very valid. And then I didn't anymore. And that's also the thing, that these two women have both claimed that I have used magic against them, and I haven't. The thing is that they have tried to put the evil eye on me.
Yeah.
And it just backfires every time. And I can feel the frustration in them when they're doing their shit talking online, or the smear campaign. I can literally feel it. And it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me at all. And every time they pipe up, it gets just this, realize how isolating that is for themselves, because nobody wants to hear it. Nobody's interested. Even if, let's say that it is not about a different person, it's just about something that you have an obsession with, like dolls. Let's say dolls. Nobody wants to hear about the fucking dolls 24/7. Every time you open your mouth, it's either about the dolls or it's going to be about the dolls. Nobody cares.
Yes. Yes,
and
it becomes
is the
an
same
obsession.
with these smear campaigns.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It's very toxic, and that's the thing. You automatically have protection from your ancestors, and you know, just having certain things around your home as well also act as protection. So you may have you may have statues, peacock feathers, like I have here, are really good. If you look, like they look like an eye, they're really good for warding against any kind of negative magic, or just even the evil eye when people don't intend they cast something at you. But yeah, that can lead us on to our next topic, and that would be signs, omens, auguries. And what is it that you see or you notice, and how do you read these?
There are some things that I know that I've been told by my grandmother, and that have later been confirmed when I talk about other people. Is like birds. When I see a black bird, and it has to catch my attention. It cannot just be like, oh, there's a crow flying, oh, there's a raven flying. No, no, it has to really catch my attention, and I have to have that almost a bit of a shock feeling when I see it. A black bird flying from left to right. That is always a good omen, always. If the blackbird in that same manner, and it also catches your eye, or it strikes you like, whoa, that was special, but it flies from your right side to your left side, it's still a good omen, but somehow your blessing or your fortune will come a little bit slower, or it will come in ways that are not immediately detectable, something that will eventually progress into something like, oh, that was actually a really good thing. A hawk for me has always been a warning. I have never had an encounter with a hawk and then something shitty, usually to do with other people, happens. One time I was sitting outside, and that was, I had a very bad feeling when I saw it. I was reading a book, and all of a sudden, it was a sunny day, and all of a sudden there's this cloud out of nowhere coming in front of the sun, and I look up to see, is it a big cloud? Do I need to go home? It was not a big cloud, but it was a dark cloud. And under that cloud, there was a hawk circling. And I immediately had this feeling like something bad's about to happen. And something bad did happen. In fact, that was one of those two women. I found out about the smear campaign that same day.
Okay.
And that was, and I woke up with an inbox full. I hadn't checked my inbox yet, but I looked at my inbox, and I see that since this morning it was full of hate messages, but message after message after message
That
after
is
message. It was
so
insane.
low. That is
Yeah,
despicable behavior. Really,
I
it sickens me to hear that. It's because you're a really nice person. So,
thank you.
yeah.
After a while, I became almost disappointed when I didn't get anything in my inbox. I swear. It became so entertaining after a while that I'm just like, oh, I'm going to check now.
Yeah. Oh,
But
nothing.
no, I'm oh, like
Yes.
almost disappointed, because it doesn't affect me. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I do understand what goes to these people's heads, but they don't understand that this flows off me like water.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it achieves nothing. I don't feel bad about myself. I'm not going to feel bad about myself. I don't feel afraid, threatened, lesser. I just think, and I really started to believe this, like every time I wake up with an inbox full of hate mail, I know I'm hot shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've become happier, more settled, more successful. So really it's completely useless for them to try anything. Birds for me are definitely they're the messengers of the gods. And you know, my sister passed away recently, and I got several signs before we even knew that she was sick. The first one was that my cat brought a dying bird into the house. It was a robin, and I knew that was a bad sign. I knew that someone was probably going to get sick, but a bird in your house is always said to be a bad omen. You know, when they get trapped or they're dying. The second one, which happened very close to her being diagnosed, was that my parents called me and they had found a bat in their kitchen. And that's like really rare, a really, strange thing to happen. And I knew it was a bad omen. I had a really bad feeling in my stomach.
And it was still alive.
Yes, it was. Now
Yeah.
my dad did. Bats aren't bad, but they are connected to death and transformation and so on. And I just knew. I said to my father, "That's a bad omen. I don't get a good feeling." And they're Christians. They're like, "Oh, don't be silly." But then we learned that she was sick, and there was a third thing that happened. And it was one of my clients had written a book and she sent it to me as a gift. And the book that she had written was how to cope with bereavement and the things that you can do in your life to make yourself feel better. And I got a bad feeling about that as well. So all of these things started to add up and I kind of knew. The other thing that happened was I had a dream about the Norns. And the Norns actually, now this happened about a year ago, but the Norns appeared to me as three corpses. And my sister passed away, but I also have another sister. So there were three of us. And the Norns appeared to me in this dream and they were standing up as three corpses. Now, at the time, I thought it was because my marriage ended shortly after that. But looking back, I kind of think that it also had something to do with my sister.
Yeah, somebody's thread coming to an end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And nothing that any of us could do about it, really. So it's just, I mean, I don't feel sad now. Obviously, I grieved a lot when she passed away, but I knew that her thread had come to an end and it was time for her to move on. But yes, omens and signs, foxes for me would be a big one. I know that I need to be careful about something, and actually they can. I love foxes. I think they're great animals, but they are connected with, in some societies, black magic. I think it's Japan. I think they see it. And anytime that I see one, one crosses the road when you're out in the car or you hear one bark at night, I know that I need to batten down the hatches energetically because something is around the corner.
That is funny because I had an encounter with a dead fox, and which did not at all strike me as a bad omen. It was dead in the middle of the road and it shouldn't have been there. It was on a hiking trail. There's no cars there, but it was dead in the middle of the road as if it had just dropped dead there.
Oh.
And I looked at it and I knew that wasn't a bad omen, because a bad omen for me are flies, black flies. It doesn't really matter if it is those big nasty ones or the smaller normal ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one or two flies in the house, that's not a thing. But when I notice that there are flies on the walls and buzzing around, and there are lots of them, and I don't know where they come from because my windows are closed, I have fly traps on the windows, that is always a bad sign for me. That's always a sign that somebody is doing black magic towards me. And when I saw that dead fox, I knew for certain that black magic had absolutely failed.
Yeah.
Because it is a sneaky animal, a cunning animal, an animal of the shadows. Well, yes, it tries to be sneaky, going behind people's backs, staying out of sight. That's exactly what the black magician does.
Yes.
And those flies did go away because I started cleaning my house vigorously with salt, burning incense, and some other practices that I adopted including one that I got from you, by the way, about the algae rune. I
Yeah.
adopted that one. And those flies went away. And I killed a few, and I don't know where the rest went, but they were no longer in the house. They were just a manifestation of something.
Yes.
And that is pretty scary if you think of it. Magic is very, very real, and it can affect you, and it can harm you.
Yes, absolutely it can. And yes, it's funny you mentioned about the flies. That would be a sign for me as well that there's some kind of negative energy around that needs to be cleared. Black flies, trying to land on you, or the persistent ones always trying to get into your face and it doesn't give up. So yeah, I am with you. The signs are really everywhere in nature. They are not to be ignored. If you just pay attention, you can really read what's coming. What I don't get is like this whole new age phenomenon, and I did mention this on Facebook, but the repeating number sequences that people talk about, and it's like, why would some kind of angel or guide choose to manifest through the microwave that you got in Argos, or Granny's dishwasher?
Yeah.
It's like, why would they? To me, I used to see those when I was a new ager, and it was never accompanied by anything good. It was always certain ones, or actually all of them, I knew that something kind of bad was coming. But of course, people just dismiss it and they think that but technology is not to be used for that. You go into nature and you can read the energy there. But it's a huge thing amongst the new agers.
I really think that entities can manifest through the digital.
Yeah.
And I've had these encounters with people on Facebook that okay, you can say it's a bot. And maybe it was, but it didn't feel like a bot because of how it responded. These bots have very predictable ways of answering. It's always kind of in the same format, like, hi, how are you? You say something insulting like, oh, I am from the Netherlands, or I am from Germany, so nice to meet you. It's always a bit peppy.
Yeah.
But these things were not. It contacted me asking me something. It wanted me to join its group, which was some sort of Freemason group, it said. And I said, no, I have no interest, and I think you're a scammer, because I then thought I was talking to a person. And he got so mad. It started to send me pictures of dead animals and mutilated animals, but so fast, picture after picture after picture. It was bizarre and disturbing.
That is disturbing.
Well, but eventually I think I just let it run out of steam. But you could feel the anger behind it. There was a real emotion there that you just don't get from these bots.
Yes.
Because they feel hollow and empty. But this thing felt angry. But it felt angry in a way that it was frustrated, that it just couldn't sway me in its direction. So it was just lashing out like an animal itself.
Yeah, Thomas Sheridan has talked a lot about the digital djinn. So I definitely think that that's true, that there's some kind of sentience that can manifest through technologies, which is why you need to. I ward my computer. So when I do the algae ritual, around my home, for anyone that doesn't know, well, we talked about this in another episode, but a really good ritual and simple ritual that you can do to protect your home is to draw algae energetically on the four corners of your home. And then you can energetically join them together. And I took that from an old, the ritual of the lesser banishing pentagram. I can't even remember what it's called, but it was an OTO ritual that I learned many years ago. And I just decided to change it and make it into one more appropriate for my path today. But I also ward my technology. And I will either have a rune as my screensaver or the background on my computer, or I will energetically draw algae on the on the screen and the base unit.
About the energetic algae on the four corners, I have added something to that. When I connect them with each other, instead of just imagining or drawing an energetic line, it's a thunder crash. It's complete. It's actually a
Oh,
lightning with a the sound of thunder that I then imagine in my head. And for some reason, that seems to give it some kick for me.
yes. Yes, it's like your invisible electrical fence. So don't go near it or you'll get buzzed. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, so there are a number of different ways that you can protect yourself. I do sometimes when I am doing rituals, which I do frequently throughout the month. On the 9th, I will do a ritual for Odin because the number 9 is sacred to Odin. And sometimes I will ask for guidance or rarely protection, but the most powerful protection is your own energy, I feel. And sometimes I will ask the gods and goddesses for help with certain things, which I don't have a problem with, because in all of the mythology, it was said to, if you want to become pregnant, pray to this goddess, ask her to protect your child, or if you for problems with marriage, go to Freya. But someone had a problem with that and said that they thought that they should be chosen by a god or goddess, but I don't think the gods will ever intervene like that unless you ask them, because we have free will.
I do believe that for some people it is easier to contact certain gods, or at least they get a better response, or whatever it is. There's just something about that person that meshes better with that energy archetype or that energy force behind that god than other people.
Yes.
For instance, a coward should never ever ask anything of Odin.
No.
Never. Don't ever do that.
No.
You don't know what you're getting on, what you're getting into. I mean, that is the kind of God that you have to be very certain of yourself and stand very firmly in your shoes, because at the end of the day is a god of magic still.
Yeah.
And magic works in ways that you don't always see coming, and it can ruin your life.
Yeah.
It really can. Excuse me. And about that, I ever since I became a mother myself, I have felt very strongly that a goddess that I didn't really have that much of a connection with suddenly became a much powerful connection, which is Frigga. It felt way more natural. Before I was like, yeah, okay, she's part of the pantheon, and yeah, she's a goddess, that's true, but I have no need or reason, or I just have no connection with that energy force. But now I do way more, and for obvious reasons, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And you're so right what you say about Odin. He's not Father Christmas. He's not this kindly old man. He's a fucking warrior, a magician, and he will if you are dishonorable, cowardly, if you lie, if you cheat, if you do any of those things, then the gods will not support you and it will backfire. And yes, your life will be ruined. So you do have to approach them carefully. You have to look at yourself and your own life before you embark on that path.
Especially with a god like Odin, who made a tremendous sacrifice himself to gain insight into himself and into the world. You think a god like that would ever entertain the notion of you wanting more money to buy a car?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
seems a bit vain.
precisely.
Well, it is vain, but it seems vain in a stupid way.
It is, yeah. That's your own concern. That's, where you have to do the work yourself. You should only, if you are going to ask for help with something, it's only because you've exhausted all other possibilities. And But asking for silly things, selfish reasons, of course, is going to backfire. I always, if I do a ritual with Thor, I always make sure that I ask him, please protect the folk. Please wake up the folk, because most of them are sleeping, and I try to approach it from a very broad perspective. But yeah, we should approach them with respect, because they are gods after all. I don't see them as people the way a lot of people do. You know, there's this whole thing about, oh, pagans don't kneel. Well, actually, historically, some of them did kneel, and you can do whatever you want and whatever feels appropriate for you, because we are all individuals and on our own paths as well.
Yeah, about kneeling. I see where you're coming from with that, because for some people, the notion of being not subservient, but the notion of knowing that you're lesser than is something very difficult. So it is almost a sacrifice within itself. It's not prostrating yourself. It is not really an act of submission. It's just an acknowledgement of the more powerful than you, which is probably wise, because if you are confronted, let's say, with a person, let's compare it to a person, and he's more powerful than you, and you're going to do this, and you're going to be very brazen about it, you are always at risk for that person to just wipe you off the face of the earth. And it's the same with gods. Be careful, because and Thomas has said that too, like those weekends that I invoke Hecate and I invoke Diana. No, you don't. You're inviting disaster onto you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I personally don't kneel because I have sore knees, but I wouldn't have a problem with doing so, because I don't think that I am equal to the gods. You know, I have the most respect for them, and I recognize their power. I've seen it. I've seen their power in my life and in other people's, so, and in the world. But yeah, I don't. There's a lot of bickering about terminology, which I think is the most ridiculous waste of time. There's a lot of bickering over certain practices as well, you know, amongst the kind of pagan communities. But I think it is a waste of time and really distracts us from the real issues.
I always hate those self-professed pagans that say, yeah, but that want to be like the people of the book. That there are rule books, there are rules you have to live by, there are certain ways you have to do things. Like, no, there's not.
Yeah.
There isn't. In the old temples, you gave, if you had to make a sacrifice, you gave what you could. I mean, it's not, it has to be a goat. It doesn't have to be a horse. It doesn't have to be a bunch of flowers. It is what you're able to give.
Yes.
And
yes.
willing to give.
Indeed. I agree with you. I think that there's only really one rule, and that's really important, and it's honor. We must have honor, but as far as your own practices go, they can be as free, you know, often as you like, and they can be of your choosing, as long as it's something that genuinely is important for you to sacrifice. Because it's not just about goats or cows anymore, or even mead, but it is about Odin sacrificed himself to himself. He made a sacrifice so that all of us could benefit from the knowledge of the runes. And I think sometimes it's a really good idea. It's not Abrahamic to do this, but you can sacrifice something that is maybe harmful or negative about yourself, because especially when you have children, you pass all of these like energies on to your descendants. And eating well, living well, being a good person is not just about you, it's also about the people that will come after you.
Indeed, that's why I can't drink anymore. Now I can have a beer with dinner, that's fine, but I definitely cannot go on a bender anymore, which I have done a couple of times since I have moved here, and it was great fun, but I just can't do that anymore. It's not, It's not fair to him, for one. And also the hangover the next day. If it puts me in a bad mood, it's going to rub off on him. And I just don't want that for him because it's not fair.
No.
What I do though, it's when it comes to sacrifices, I sacrifice time and effort. I go clean up the town. I go around with a trash bag and pick up garbage. I have a little garden that I don't have to take care of, but I do take care of. What else? Things like that. Just things around the town.
Yeah.
Because it's not just me that benefits from that. It's the whole town that benefits from that. And it's not like I do that because I expect something in return. It's just my way of, I don't want to say praying, but sacrifice.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a lovely way to approach it. So now I am going to talk a little bit about the astrology for July, and we'll see what's coming in, how you can time your rituals as well, if that's something that you would like to do. So in July, we have actually quite a lot of retrogrades. And that is a time in traditional astrology that it's said to be a time of karma, where your actions in the past, you'll see the results of that kind of coming out during retrogrades. Now, Saturn is retrograde for the whole month, and I love Saturn. I really love him. He's my favorite planet because he's about discipline, focus, hard work, and success that comes from a lot of effort. So his retrograde motion is going to give us an opportunity to review things in your life that are not stable. So that's always a good thing. Now, Neptune is also retrograde for the whole month of July. This is a time when the rose-tinted glasses are definitely off. And maybe some things that seemed fun or glamorous, maybe it was an illusion. You start to see the truth about that in July. It can be a harsh time, but illusions and fantasies, they don't do any of us any good. So it is a great time to drop those. Chiron is retrograde on July 23rd. And Chiron is mostly about, in my opinion, ancestral wounds, ancestral karma that has not been healed in any recent generations because of ineffective death rates, the lack of knowledge about such things. So whatever is kind of triggered during this period, you will notice some ancestral themes that you will benefit from working on. So another one, which probably is the one that I least look forward to, but Venus is retrograde from July 23rd, and she is retrograde in the sign of Leo. And Venus in Leo, she wants to be adored, she wants to be admired and be beautiful, but she's taking a little trip into the underworld. And this is when Venusian stuff becomes less visible. So maybe because there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of work, there's not so much time for romance or pleasure in life or glamorous things. So we have to focus more on some boring stuff as well. So in relationships, this is going to be an issue because Venus is connected to love and relationships. You may find that there's like maybe a little bit of a lack of passion or romance. Maybe you're both busy or tired because of all the retrogrades, because they will make us feel more sleepy and we'll need more rest. So what I would say is go and get your attention from someone else. Your partner is tired. They just want to sleep. Leave them alone. And you also will find that there may be some solutions that pop up during the retrograde regarding finances or your self-esteem or being in the spotlight in some way. So she goes retrograde on the same day that the sun enters Leo. So all of those Leo themes are going to be really prominent for the whole of July. Now, some other things, we have a full moon on July 3rd, and it's in Capricorn. So when we have, my cat is just coming in. So if you see him on the screen, just when I talk about Leo, he's so good. So yeah, the full moon is in Capricorn. And when we have a full moon, the sun and the moon are in opposite signs. Sun in Cancer, moon in Capricorn, which actually is the archetype of both the mother and the father. So on this full moon is a really good day for you to do ancestral work. Connected to your mother's line, your father's line. It is also a really good day to work with, give offerings to, or worship, whatever word you want to say, because no matter which word I say, it's always wrong. People complain, but give offerings to your maternal goddess and to your father god, because these energies are really going to work and allow you to kind of access those realms. So on July 5th, now, I'm sure you've all heard of this 8-8 Lionsgate complete bullshit thing that the New Agers have created, that supposedly on the 8th of August, there is some alignment, but they never say which aspect it is because there isn't one. But they say that there's this portal and it goes to Sirius, the dog star, and there's all of this like New Age, beautiful light that comes in. It's totally false. Now, if you did want to connect with Sirius, July 5th is when the sun makes a conjunction to Sirius. So if for whatever reason you decided to do that, that would be not a portal, but a good day for it. So on July 10th, Mars enters Virgo. So Mars in Virgo, it's great for any kind of delicate, intricate work. But this transit, along with Venus retrograde, just be careful that you don't become overly critical with your partner, or, they're being annoying and critical. We have that kind of energy going on in July. So do your best to ignore it or approach it from a kind of a healthy place. So Mercury enters Leo on July 11th, which helps us to communicate more effectively, but we may become more opinionated and really sure of ourselves and not keeping anything in. And again, this could cause some problems with other people or, relationships. The best way to work with this transit is to get creative or make a podcast like we're doing now, or a video, or do some writing. Then we have a new moon in Cancer on July 17th. Cancer, I love Cancer season. It's all about family, children, and it's a great time to get together for a barbecue. But this new moon in Cancer, Cancer being an archetype of the mother, it makes me think of some opportunity to really work on the karma from your mother's side. So what you could do is work with your paternal side on the full moon and then do the mother's side on the new moon, if you choose to. That's really it for the astrology in July. I hope that was helpful. And it will give you some ideas about what the month is going to be like. It may be a bit tricky with some of the astrology, but we'll be okay. We always are.
Life goes on.
It does. So would you like to take a little look at your runes and see what the runes say?
As you were talking, I pulled 3. I took a peek at what they are, but I'm just going to throw them and see how they land and go from there.
Okay.
2 are upside down and 1 is not. The one that is not upside down, I'm going to do that one first, because that seems the one that is the most poignant in the reading, because the other ones are always a bit more on the background when they're upside down. Life and death. It is the representation of the vertical axis of the world tree. This is the rune, or the trunk of the Yggdrasil that connects the worlds of the living and the dead, whether that is to Asgard or to Helheim, which Helheim is not a bad place to go. It's where most of us will go after death. It is a rune of endurance, because it also signifies protection. And when do you need protection is when you are in a place of danger, whether that is from the elements, from yourself, or from other people. It's mostly other people that we need to be afraid of. Well, afraid of, that we need protection from. Sometimes also ourselves. So when it comes to maybe be a bit patient with your partner and not be nitpicky and nagging, take a step back and try to look through the lens of love instead of the lens of annoyance, which is easy. For me, it can be a challenge sometimes. I can be naggy. The other ones, which are upside down, it's this one and this one. But what I really got from the astrology forecast is that there's a lot of emphasis on family and the intimacy of the home life. Well, yeah, it can be hard sometimes, especially both with astrological influences and also the state of the world, because it doesn't only apply to the person individually, it applies to the world stage. And we can get totally lost in that and focus too much on the outside world, and the home life becomes almost a backdrop. But we need to nurture that. That is our sanctuary. And we need protection from that sort of thinking. We need to give ourselves the protection from that sort of thinking, because if we don't, it's so much energy gone to waste. That's so much energy gone to waste that you could have put into yourself. Make your house nicer, so you just feel nicer, for instance, which is very important, by the way. Keeping your house in a state that you like. That is a very powerful spiritual practice. The other one, this one, is the rune of strength. Because, yeah, when we feel that we want to draw protection to ourselves, it is because we don't feel strong enough to do it ourselves. And with a lot of retrogrades in astrology, yeah, it can feel quite chaotic. But we need to not get lost in that, because the protection still comes from within ourselves. This is the rune of inner strength more than any other kind of strength. It's the sort of strength that comes from a good health, so maintain your own health, but also from physical strength. So work on yourself, work out a little bit if you can. If you can't, then do whatever it is that makes you feel better, but that fuels that inner core of fire in yourself, the vital force. Excuse me. And also wisdom. That can also fuel your own inner flame. Your flame of vitality is to not only take care of your physical health, but also your mental health. Very important, because the two go hand in hand. If you neglect one, the other one will not have such a good effect. You have to work on both in equal measure. And then I drew a rune just to give me a sort of message, I suppose, for the month of July. And it's funny because we were talking about this rune, and I swear I didn't draw it on purpose. It just came out. And I think the message is like, astrology and runic philosophy are both very life affirming. Never forget that magic in itself is very life affirming. So don't get too lost on the mystical path so that you start to neglect yourself and your home life.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to need some other kind of protection from yourself again. This life ends at some point, so don't forget to make the most of it and enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Try to enjoy it, at least. And I think that's it.
That was fantastic. That was really good. Thank you. And it's amazing that the runes kind of reflected the astrology for the month as well, as they would, because we're connecting right now. And yeah, but that was really good. Algae I often see within nature. And obviously in the branches of a tree, or you're walking along the path and you see the twigs forming, and I always take that as a really good sign that I'm being protected. My ancestors are around me. So those were some good runes. And don't neglect yourself, your health. Your health is definitely your biggest, one of your strongest sources of protection against any kind of bad energy. If you're physically unwell, if you're loading yourself full of junk food or alcohol, your defenses are going to be really down. So, which of course is why that they don't want us to eat good food anymore, because the earth at the moment is being subjected to just a mass black magic attack, and people are eating shitty food and pumping all kinds of nonsense into themselves, and they just have no protection against the stuff that's going on. It's sad.
I agree that there is absolutely a spiritual reason why people in power, the so-called elite, want us unhealthy. And history has shown us that these people don't have our best interest in mind. Rulers rarely, if ever, have our best interest in mind. At the end of the day, they're still just people. People with a hyperinflated ego and opinion about themselves. And when has that ever turned out for the better for you? Just read a history book. It almost never ever is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they want us to eat a diet that farm animals eat, to be fattened for slaughter. So yeah, it's truly a truly bizarre time to be alive, I think, but also exciting because, well, you get to meet people like, I've met you and you're on the same wavelength as me, and we can communicate over the internet. So there are some really good things about it, but yeah. So, well, that was perfectly timed, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this podcast, and I will leave links below the video so that you can get in touch with us if you would like. And until then, farewell and take care of yourselves. And we will be back again in August.